Hello, welcome to Tip Off. The band is on vacation again. They don't seem to think working in the summer is really particularly interesting to them, or it has something weird to do with my browser that's decided it doesn't want to play music. Hope you're well. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. We do this tip off for you each and every morning, kinda. This week, I think we're going to hit Monday, Tuesday, Thursday would be my guess as of right now. I know we won't do Wednesday, and Thursday we'll see. I'm basically trying to have some sense of a life and not let this thing override everything I do. So, and also, frankly, I'm not sure we have 5 days a week of information that's out there right now. So I'm going to be around a lot this week, though. If you're interested, I will be doing the afternoon drive show on Tuesday and Thursday for you if you're interested in that. So Tuesday and Thursday I'll be doing the afternoon drive show, and then I'll have tip-off for you. I won't on Wednesday, and Friday is questionable at this point. So anyway, let's hit a few things here. On late Friday, I think it came out that the Jazz were adding a new coach. Patrick Beelan, he's the son of the Michigan head coach, John Beelan, who coached Trey. He's been the head coach at Western Virginia Wesleyan. This is just another Dennis Lindsay new Jazz addition to the staff, expanding a video coordinator, another person in player development. So you now have Johnny Bryant, and I think it sounds like Mike Wells, while he was on the bench during Summer League, is, I think, if I have this right, going to be player development coach with Antonio Lang, Alex Jensen, and Brad Jones on the front of the bench. So you're adding a third player development coach. It's a really interesting coaching staff put together by Dennis Lindsay and Quinn Snyder. It has basically no NBA experience. Antonio Lang is the closest you have to any NBA experience on the bench, which is somewhat unheard of. But it's clear what the mantra is here. The mantra is to teach. Beelan's interesting because Beelan was a great shooter at West Virginia, and reading about him and calling some people and talking to people in that area, it's hard to find, but I found a report. His kind of signature thing as a coach is a whole shooting sequence. And a real shooting coach who is kind of taught, believes, and which is important for Dante and Trey and all of our young guys. If this is something that really can translate, I don't, not quite a shot doctor. He's pretty young to go on that level, but that's kind of his signature as a coach and as a developmental coach, is his shooting, according to people back from where he just came from who were with him. He was actually at Michigan and Dartmouth, and then got the break and has done, has done quite a lot of kind of good work in that. And his teams were good. They shot 40% from three as a team on a low-level league, which is that's a good sign. So that's Patrick Beelan and that staff. It's another kind of sign of where the Jazz are, with 10-man rotation, 8 of which are 24 under. Is that where we are, I think? And now you have these what looks to be a staff of even younger, or excuse me, just of developmental people. So that's where the Jazz stand. Some interesting, fun stuff happening for Jazz players. No surprise, Dante Exum made the Australian team, but so did Brock Modem. Modem also told some papers in Australia that he has been invited to Jazz training camp, which probably isn't that big a surprise, particularly after the trade of Eric Murphy and Malcolm Thomas. I don't know how he makes his team, but that's nice for him to get an NBA training camp opportunity, so that's a big deal. In France, Rudy Gobert may get a chance to really make an impact on the World Cup games, because Kevin Seraphin had a knee procedure done after he signed his deal with the Washington Wizards, and he is not going back to France, nor is Alex Ajinka, whose wife is about to play. Now, since then they added another center to the team. I'm forgetting right now who it is, but Gobert, the way he's been playing, it's another opportunity for him to prove himself. And Rudy, I think the one thing that people don't really know about Rudy, Rudy is really driven. I mean, he's just kind of I like him, but he's kind of a jerk. Like, he just believes he's going to be great. He just won't take any gruff, and he had a really hard time last year being a rookie, and I mean jerk in a good way. Like, I think I'm a jerk too, so I kind of mean that as a compliment. since I'm self-complimenting myself, evidently, with doing that. Wow, that just did not come out right. Wow. Woo, like the guy in the cartoon who like digs himself a hole and just keeps going, 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 going. That did not come out as I had hoped, but who cares? So anyway, it looks like another chance for Rudy, and Rudy's just not a guy who takes a backseat to anyone and believes he should have a backseat to anyone. I think this is going to be very successful for Rudy. I do think it's going to be a little bit of a hurdle for him as well in his career. So, worth keeping an eye on there. And then obviously with the U.S. team, Kevin Love goes out, and it's hard to see how they're going to form this roster and what they think they need for big guys. And, Hayward's a long shot still, but when you start to compare, if you're going to take Klay Thompson, Gordon Hayward, or Chandler Parsons, I think Klay Thompson probably gets that edge. He's a better shooter, and he's a better defender in people's mind. I'm not sure I buy that Klay Thompson's really a better defender, but he's not, and he is a better shooter. He's quicker, and it might parlay better for the matchup of the way the U.S. team works. However, Gordon is a far better playmaker, and I really still believe that Gordon Hayward's a pretty special player. Maybe he's not a max top 15 player in the league. I don't think Klay Thompson is either. But I think that, there's a level where Klay Thompson's unwillingness to pass, which it's easy for people to say, well, that's just because of the team he's playing on in Golden State, and that's how Mark Jackson had structured, but he doesn't pass. Gordon is an incredible team player, and more often than not, if Gordon's ever on the floor, he'll be the fifth best offensive player on the floor. Well, his willingness to pass might make him a pretty good pickup for that team. I like him more than Chandler Parsons. He's as good a shooter as Chandler Parsons. He's a better playmaker. He's a better player with the ball in his hands. He's a better passer. He's probably a better defensive player. So if it turns out that and then there's Kyle Korver just as a pure shooter. If it turns out the way that roster breaks that, there's maybe a chance Gordon gets lucky. I mean, it's a long shot, but there's a chance, and it's beginning to happen a little bit more and more as time goes on. Congratulations to Paul Millsap, who was added to the roster. That is really cool. Particularly Kevin Love, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge have all withdrawn from the team. So Kenneth Faried, Andre Drummond, Anthony Davis, and DeMarcus Cousins are the only big men on that team. I do think Gordon can play some 4. I think he's going to play some 4 this upcoming season for the Jazz at times. He played 5 in college. Often he's comfortable in that. He'll be a little overwhelmed at times in certain matchups, but I think there's a chance. Bradley Beal's the name I didn't mention in there, and DeMar DeRozan's another one. So it's an interesting group of Beal, Klay Thompson, DeMar DeRozan, Gordon Hayward, Chandler Parsons, kind of all playing for a spot. Kyle Korver, 6 spots. And it's going to be how many point guards are they going to carry? It's a hard one. I've tried to look at it. I keep making mistakes because of who's there and who's not, and I keep trying to break down kind of how they're going to do it. And it's hard to tell. They may carry 5 point guards at some point in time, which I think is hard to tell. Millsap though also has a real chance to make this team if, in the same way we're talking about Gordon, the fact that he can kind of play a 3-4 role. He obviously plays the 4 better, but in the European game, he may be able to slide down. If you look at the team, and there's going to be 12 guys on the team, and we walk through this, I think DeMarcus Cousins actually is a lock unless he does something stupid. I think Steph Curry is a lock. Anthony Davis is a lock. Kevin Durant is a lock, so there's 4. Paul George is a lock, that's 5. James Harden is a lock, that's 6. Kyrie Irving's a lock, that's 7. Damian Lillard's a lock, that's 8. Derrick Rose is a lock, that's 9. And I think John Wall is a lock, that's 10. And so now, who gets the other 2 spots, and what are you trying to do with those other 2 spots in those next, so now if those are the 10, and you're now deciding between Bradley Beal, let's say you're taking 1 guard, you're deciding between Bradley Beal, Gordon Hayward, Kyle Korver, Chandler Parsons, Klay Thompson. I think there's a chance that Gordon could make that group of five. If you're looking for a big, you're deciding between Andre Drummond and Paul Millsap and Kenneth Faried. I think Paul Millsap. You also could decide that Kyle Korver is a specialist who makes the team, and you're taking Gordon Hayward or Paul Millsap as a. So I think as Paul gets, as I think as Gordon gets in this setting, this is a good setting for him. He plays better with better players. He's a better athlete than people realize. I think there's a chance a little bit here for Gordon Hayward to really surprise some people. I've got optimistic thoughts. I don't know if he makes the group of 15. I mean, he could get cut pretty quickly in this process. 15 of them are going to move to Chicago because he's probably the lowest level guy in terms of recognition and thoughts, and obviously the contract helps. Other than Chandler Parsons maybe, but anyway. I just keep an eye on it. What's going on with Kanter? People keep asking me. So there's a lot going on with Kanter. It's very complicated. None of it's face-off. The fact that is what's important to us is the original reports about his surgery and the procedure was done are accurate. Now what's going on is Kanter, who was wanted to play, at least this is supposition on my part. Okay, so that was factual. That's the procedure took place. The recovery is going to be fine, and he'll be ready for training camp and be ready to go. What's happened also, though, here, this is my supposition. Kanter's had a rocky relationship with the Turkish national team. Kanter wants to get back playing for Turkey. The Turkish national team wants him because he's good, but they have this rocky relationship, and there needs to be some kind of mending of fences. Couple that with the next part of it is Kanter's restricted free agent coming off this knee thing, and I think there may be, not sure, supposition on my part, some nervousness on Kanter's agent's part to putting him out there. And it's all right if Kevin Love does this, and it's all right if LaMarcus Aldridge does this. In the U.S., we kind of accept this idea that, well, the NBA is more important, and you step aside and you go play you don't play for your national team if it might impact your future income. That's not acceptable across the world. Manu Ginobili doesn't miss Argentina games. There's all sorts of problems going on with that team, but they don't. That's not an acceptable answer in the European game or in the world game. Argentina not being in Europe, so therefore, with that said. I think what you have to look at and understand is that there's a chance that that's partially what Enes is doing right now, is that Enes kind of doesn't want to go because of the fact that he's got the restricted free agency coming and all those kind of things, and yet the Turkish coach has to come out and say, to help mend the fence with Enes, hey, you know what, he's injured, he's not able to play, when maybe the truth is he is injured, he probably could play, but he doesn't really want to play because he's a restricted free agent. But in our world, it's not okay to say that. If we said that in the U.S., everybody would be like, okay, we get it, that's fine, but it's not okay in Turkey. So I think there's a little dance going on here where the Turkish coach needs to make the injury sound significant enough to protect Enes. Enes is probably not earning huge brownie points with Turkey, but eventually this is going to come together and they're going to meld together. Did that make any sense? There's some supposition there, but I'm reading between the lines of what's going on there. Few other news and notes out there. Week-long All-Star break being talked about. I'd have to say I'm for that. That's a ski vacation. Okay, totally selfish. Though if I was in charge, I would like us to start the season December 1. I think we are better off to start the season December 1 than November 1st. Have a week or two of interesting stuff, then really kick it off with the Christmas rather than kind of the pre-month. And then I don't think back-to-backs hurt performance. I think 4 games in 5 nights hurt performance. And I think back-to-back coming off national televised games are particularly late hurt performance. I think there need to be some restrictions on when you're willing to do back-to-backs. It's very complicated for Matt Winnick in the scheduling and maybe impossible. But I think that that's the answer on this. But I would like us to start December 1st, play the finals probably to July 1, almost to July 4th. Baseball's not pulling ratings. if it's the finals, we're going to watch it 2 weeks later than otherwise. And I think you could try. I mean, frankly, I think you also could reduce the schedule from 82 games, and no, we're probably not going to do that. But that's where I would like to see. If we want to do a week-long All-Star break, that's great. If we want to have a mid-season tournament, that's great. But the biggest thing that lockout showed me is that we don't need to start till December 1. Frankly, we don't need to start till Christmas. But to start December 1, because you got to get some games in. Now you're behind 15 games. So you run the season to May 1. You're going to, instead of April 15th, you now have to you have to jam some more games in at a little bit of a higher rate, which would be difficult, but I think can be done if done correctly. The other thing I would like for season ticket holders is, and I don't know how we do this with hockey arenas, and maybe this is a pipe dream, but I would really like it if we knew that our games were Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That Tuesday and Thursday were off nights. You can't do it with the TV contracts. I got it. But there's some element where I think that would be helpful to fans if there was some more consistency. Sean Marion's still out there. Mo Williams are still out there. Are either of them willing to come to a team like the Utah Jazz where it's development and just take a veteran role, and maybe do we want either of them on a roster where Sean Marion's probably better than Rodney Hood and Mo Williams might be better than Dante Exum or Trey Burke at times? Do we want them on the roster at this point? Do we need that veteran presence that is out there? Keep an eye on that. But those are out there. Marion to me is more interested than Mo at this point. I think Mo would have a hard time coming back here to be. Mo still really wants to make an impact, and Mo's free agencies have not gone well. Tom Ziller wrote an interesting piece, 3 teams that got worse: Orlando, the Lakers, and the Kings. I was a little nervous we'd be included in that. We were not. Obviously, nobody thinks losing Marvin and Richard Jefferson is making us worse. And then the Lakers have hired Byron Scott, which is interesting because if you go back to tip-off, I told you from day one that they were going to hire Byron Scott, and makes you wonder why they waited 2.5 months, but that is not a well-run organization right now. All right, those are my notes. That's what I have. Let's jump to a few questions. Nate Olson, do you think other players will mimic LeBron's one-year deal out for the future to counter that? Do you think the NBA will eventually allow teams to sign players for fixed percentage of the cap as opposed to, very deep? Or the other question is, do you think that they'll get rid of the max contract? I don't, but I'd like it. It'd be good for us if they did. No, I don't think other players will mimic LeBron because I think LeBron has more power and more guts than most people. Do I think the NBA will eventually allow teams to sign players for a fixed percentage of the cap as opposed to fixed dollar amount? I like that. It's an interesting concept. I think there's something awfully close to it right now in the new max deal. If a rookie max deal hits certain requirements, I think they get certain percentage of the cap. That is a very astute comment on your part, and we're closer to that. Do you think? Do you think if Gobert plays well enough to turn heads and Booker emerges as a worker and a leader, do the Jazz explore trading Kanter this offseason? Well, this is a funny question because I think on some level the Jazz explore trading all of their players all the time if they can get a better deal for it, right? I don't think we're at the point where anyone's untradeable. You know, if Kevin Love suddenly announced tomorrow that he was willing to come to Utah and sign an extension, I think that a lot of our guys would become very expendable, right? Isn't that the reality? If we suddenly got a 3-way deal where Andrew Wiggins was coming over to us in a 3-way deal, I think a lot of our players would be. But I think this is maybe the bigger question of what you're asking, since I'm taking it very literally, is I think this is a very, very big question very big season for Enes Kanter. Not only do I think it's unlikely that they get an extension done with Enes for various reasons. One, I think his agent. This is a very important deal for his agent to mark himself in the marketplace, and I think he is going to be unwilling to take anything reasonable in pre-restricted free agency because he thinks Kanter can get more. And then also whether Kanter fits into what Quinn can do, whether Kanter can defend well enough, and whether Kanter can spread the floor and become a viable, shooting force. I do also think that Kanter can still average 18 and 8 in this league, but I'm not sure you can win with him yet. He hasn't proved to me you can win with him yet. He has proved to me I think he'll average 18 and 8. All right, wonderful to chat with you. Nice to see many of you again. There's a new feature, by the way. I don't know if anyone wants to let me know if it worked. It's called Showcase over on the left-hand side, and I put up a link of Locked on Jazz just because I was wondering what it does. So I have no idea what that does, but if somebody has any experience with it or knows what it is, let me know. Google keeps adding little things in here along the way, their favorite new one is the one that I now can, I can draw on myself. I can give myself new eyebrows. I can give myself the pencil thin mustache. Um, I can give myself a bloody nose. Here, I give myself a bloody nose streaming down my face. There you go. There it was. Oh, it didn't hold. There you go. Oh, it didn't hold again. So anyway, all sorts of silly stuff that Google is doing, none of which seems to be very useful, and probably certain that I will never, ever draw another play on my face because you never know. There, bloody nose. All right, bye. See ya. Silliness.